All right, this is the AM show. Right about now, we're going to be talking about MPs absenteeism. It's actually a never-dying subject, is it? Usually, we'll hear think tanks like Odikro, Imani Africa bemoaning the absence of members of parliament in the House. Well, now the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Jose Wusu, is livid about it. He's worried some MPs come in, clock in, and exit the chamber. So today, we're talking about it with Ni Ama from Odikro. They've done several research on this. They keep reporting. It's a civil society organization. We're going to get on Skype with Dr. Rashid Rahman, who is Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. But first, together with Ernest Ni Ama, I would like to just scroll through because once you Google MP absenteeism, there's a lot attributed to Odikro, and that's what I want us to check right now. So you've been reporting about this. Even this year in March, there's a story attributed to you. When we scroll down, we'll see a lot more of your reports and the reactions thereafter. So you've been doing this 2017, we reported same. This is 2018, which is last year. And then there's the March this year, there's August 2016 as well. So this, okay, there's March 25th. So this subject really is not new, except that now we had last week, particularly last week, we had the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament acting as Speaker, actually striking out some 15 names. First of all, how do you do your tracking?
So Parliament has a system of tracking MPs' attendance, and MPs' attendance are recorded in what is known as the votes and proceedings. So it has three different columns: MPs who are present, MPs who are absent with permission of the Speaker, and MPs who are absent without permission of the Speaker. So what we do is to be tracking those who are absent without permission of the Speaker. Because if you go to Article 97(1)(c) of the Constitution, it says that MPs who absent themselves from 15 cities and above without written permission of the Speaker, actions ought to be taken against such MPs. So we use the votes and proceedings.
And this is a public document?
This is a public document.
Okay, but
yes.
MPs have had issues with Odikro.
Yes.
Particularly on this. Tell us about it.
Well, you know, we can understand that MPs do not feel comfortable being exposed in public. And so we understand their reactions perfectly. But then someone ought to track MPs' attendance, because it's very important. First of all, before parliamentary business can commence, you need to establish a quorum in Parliament. And secondly, MPs are in Parliament to represent our collective interests, not to do private business. So it's important that measures are taken to make sure that they're always in the House to attend to public business.
Yeah, okay. So we're talking about MPs who absent themselves without permission. And there are those who absent themselves with permission. Yes. But you haven't been going to that site?
Yes.
Okay, you've only been concentrating on those
because there's no violation of any procedure or law.
Okay, but what's the, in terms of numbers, because last week we saw 15 names, you know, struck out because even though they were in the register, they were not visibly in the House. How is yours? Is yours more than 15? Like, how worse can it get?
Well, I think there are two different things. The first one has to do with some MPs attempting to obstruct administrative procedure, so that it will not be discovered that they have been chronically absenting themselves from Parliament. What we have been doing is to track chronically absentee MPs. Okay. So what these 50 MPs were trying to do is to, in the long term, prevent us from discovering that they have been violating Article 97.
How is that?
And this is because now to record your attendance in Parliament, you have to go to the mailroom, or the people behind the table office will just be looking. So if you are there, they indicate that you are present or absent. Okay. So what some of these MPs do is that, let's say Parliament commences sittings at 10 a.m. They will be there, they will be observing, but just when they notice that the attendance has been taken, they walk out. Sometimes some of them ask their colleagues to record their names on their behalf. But the MPs are able to do this because Parliament is still using a manual approach to recording MPs' attendance, and that's the root of the problem.
Okay, how does it work elsewhere? Are you looking at examples if you say that they're still using the manual approach?
Well, elsewhere you can use the MP's fingerprint, or you have a card that you can slot in. So if you are in Parliament, say 10 a.m., and then you walk out, the system will register that you were here at 10 a.m., but by 11:15 you walked out.
Yeah.
We don't have that system here.
Okay. There was a country, and I can't remember the name readily, that also complained about MPs coming in, clock in, and then they exit. This was not in Ghana. This is elsewhere. So this is not really peculiar to us.
No, of course. I mean, MPs misconduct is a global phenomenon, but in other jurisdictions, there are clear mechanisms for dealing with it. Here, we have not seen the forthrightness of the leadership of Parliament to dealing with, should I say, recalcitrant MPs. So what we are calling for is this leadership of Parliament to take action against these MPs, because this has been happening over the years, and because actions have not been taken. That's why some MPs have been emboldened to even go to the extent of beating the system.
So you've been tracking these MPs. Can you tell if it's because they have other responsibilities? So are they also ministers of states? Is there a reason why they absent themselves without permission?
We understand that the role of MPs is very demanding. But then, I mean, Mama B, you also have to appreciate that these people understood what they were going for before they went to Parliament in the first place.
Yes.
So there's no excuse whatsoever. What they're supposed to do is to observe the rules of the House. If you want to absent yourself from Parliament, all you have to do is to follow the procedure, fill the leave of absence, ask the Speaker that for this number of reasons, I cannot make it to sittings today. The Speaker will grant you. The real problem we are talking about is some MPs think they are above the rules and do not want to follow this procedure at all.
I'm not sure you exactly answered my question. So do they have extra responsibilities? Are we talking more about those who also have the extra responsibility of being ministers of states?
But I do not see any excuse for why they should act the way they do, because it's unacceptable.
Yeah.
On all scores.
No, I get it.
Yes.
But okay, so it means that you won't answer that. Maybe Dr. Rashid Rahman will help us out. He's the executive director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. He's joining us via Skype on this conversation of MPs absenteeism. Good morning to you, Dr. Rahman. Thank you so much for your time. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mama B. It's good to see you too.
Can I ask for your reaction to the Speaker, the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, who was acting as Speaker of Parliament, his reaction to some 15 MPs who had put their names on the register but who were not in the chamber?
Well, it's a reaction that has come late in the day, because I believe the Right Honourable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, as well as the entire leadership of Parliament is very, very much aware of this problem. Like you rightly said, Odikro has done a lot of work on this. I mean, we have all commented on this issue over and over and over. They are all aware. I mean, this is not something new. So I wasn't really ticked by the fact that he reacted. The only part that I think I was impressed about was the fact that maybe those names were struck out. Maybe that's the first time we have seen some little action, if you like, in this regard.
But what's the significance of that? What does that even mean?
Well, I mean, it doesn't really mean much. Honestly, it doesn't really mean much. Because for me, like the gentleman in the studio has said,
Ernest Ama?
Ernest Ama, yes. Other parliaments have similar problems. Right now, I'm out of the country. I'm in a country that I would not like to name, because if I do name it, maybe I might be in trouble. Because just last week, I mean, we were having a discussion with the Deputy Speaker of the Parliament here. And they also have a similar problem, and this is across most countries on the continent and even beyond. But the difference between many countries and our country is that, you know, they found a way of ensuring that the rules apply, so that when you absent yourself, maybe for whatever number of times according to the standing orders and the rules, the sanctions are applied if you have to lose some part of your salary, your benefits, and so on. But, Mamambi, for me, I think I want to look at this in a much broader context, within the context of current happenings in our country. We're all witnesses to last week and the week before when an honorable member was claiming immunity because he has to show up in Parliament and do his work, and that he couldn't be in court and so on. I mean, if you take the cameras to the house and you see a house that is empty, what are we really talking about? So when it suits them, they are very quick to run to the rules. And you also pose the question whether they have extra responsibilities. I think in our country, one of the biggest problems, in fact, and just yesterday I was discussing again here with an eminent Ghanaian who is on a visit, and we're conversing about our country and some of the challenges. And we put the finger, particularly when it comes to Parliament, on this fusion of roles. We're talking about oversight and accountability and so on, but it also goes to representation and showing up in Parliament. They have dual responsibilities. They are in cabinet, they are here, they are there, they are members of boards and so on. Very irregular and sometimes unnecessary duties that really do not help them make a career in Parliament. And we are going to elections. So this situation is really going to get worse. And I am not too sure that in an election year, our leaders would have the spine to punish their own when it comes to this issue of absenteeism. So I think at the end of the day, yes.
No, please land.
No, I'm saying that at the end of the day, this comes back to us citizens. I think we get what we accept and what we take.
I was just going to draw your attention to the fact that, I mean, isn't this even the roots of this in our own constitution? What do you expect when you have to pick so many of them from Parliament into the executive?
Exactly. I think, yes, that has been spoken over and over and over and over again. Even the constitutional review that has told nobody knows where it is now and so on. I mean, there was very loud, a very loud voice from citizens saying, decouple Parliament from the executive. I mean, that was very clear. I think if there was any one strong recommendations from citizens, it was that one. But I mean, I want to go back to what I was saying. Just look at what is happening in Hong Kong right now. Citizens have come out on the streets and they say, look, we are not going to accept this because we know where this is headed. And the leaders are having to backtrack from the bill that was in Parliament. So my point is, I'm not calling for any revolution or anything. We all want a country that is well governed. We all want our members of Parliament. They are honorable and they should behave in an honorable manner. They don't have the title just for fun. If you are supposed to show up and work, then you should show up and work. Otherwise, what moral authority would you have when you begin questioning people in the civil service? When you begin questioning people who show up before the Public Accounts Committee and say they went beyond their mandate? I mean, sometimes it's not only when you take public money physically. When you don't work and you take money, that is also something else.
Interesting.
And I think that our leaders should be mindful of this so that they can have the moral authority to call all of us to answer when we have gone beyond our responsibilities as citizens.
Fantastic point there. Dr. Draman, stay with me because I want to engage the Director of Research.
Unfortunately, I don't have
You
much
can't
time,
stay
so
with
I
me.
hope it will be in the next 5 minutes.
So let me end with you. Let me ask the next question. What is punishment enough for these persons who refuse to get permission before they absent themselves in Parliament? What is punishment enough?
Well, I think it has to be perhaps maybe a gradual process to set some examples. I mean, they have allowances that they claim for when they show up. I mean, if you take that, I think that will be the beginning. they have immunities and so on. If you don't show up and then to work, I mean, you don't have immunity. If anything happens, like in the case of Honorable Ayerga, so if, for instance, they are all made aware that on the day that you don't show up in Parliament and there is, I mean, maybe some issue around you and you want to claim immunity, sorry, that is not possible. And then beyond that, I mean, go to the extreme, which Odikro has been calling for. I mean, suspending these honorable members from the House and so on. I mean, I think that those would set very good example. But I want to say, Mama V, I don't hold any hope that this can be done between now and 2020.
Wow. That doesn't give me, what you just said doesn't even give me hope myself. But just before you run off, what is the standard elsewhere? What is best practice?
Well, best practice elsewhere, I think, is if you don't show up for no reason, I mean, you lose whatever benefits you get on that day, or even if you are late. I mean, I know the Parliament of Zambia, for instance, is one parliament that I admire so much. I mean, I don't know whether the standards are still the same, but there used to be a clerk who was a disciplinarian who was very strict in terms of applying the rules. And of course, I mean, she had the support of the leadership, because as an administrator in a political environment, if you don't have the support of the political heads, I mean, there's nothing much you can do. And I believe that that's what we are facing here in terms of, I mean, the people who are the custodians of the rules. I mean, the clerk and his people, including the director of research that you are going to be talking to shortly. I mean, so I think in other places they make sure that they apply the rules, and I believe also if we have to reduce this to the barest minimum, I think it comes back to our honesty, our integrity as citizens. I mean, I think if we say we are going to do something, I think we should be very honest enough to do what we promise, particularly people at that very high level.
Okay, would an electronic clock-in system be helpful?
Yes, it will be helpful, but also remember that, I mean, there are human beings behind this, and the human element, I think, would always play a role if we don't have leadership being decisive about ensuring that the rules are applied. It will help, but I think it will not be the panacea for, I mean, resolving this issue.
Okay. Dr. Draman, thank you very much. That's Executive Director of the Center for Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Rashid Draman. Still in studio is Ernest Ama, he's Director of Research with the research think tank Odikro. Okay, so any comment based on what he said?
I perfectly agree with with what Dr. Dramani has shared. Just that, like he rightly said, having an electronic mechanism in place in itself will not be good. So you need to make that process transparent to allow for accountability.
Okay, so I was just thinking.
Yes.
As normal Ghanaians, as students, you go to school and sometimes you actually don't go and you let somebody write your name in the register. Just so you can get ticked like you were present. There are so many things that we do as ordinary citizens. These members of parliament, they are just like us. I mean, they've come from our societies. So really, what do we expect? The fact that you enter that chamber, should you change from who you were or who you are? Do we expect you to change?
I agree with what you're saying to some extent, but then you also have to recognize that the positions that they are occupying are not ordinary positions. These are positions that comes with a lot of benefits and immunities and a lot of respect. It's not accident that we call them honorables.
Yeah.
You have to understand. And that word actually qualifies the seat that they are occupying. So it means that in a way they are set apart from the rest of the citizens. So that also demands that they set good examples because a lot of people are looking up to them.
Do you feel vindicated? Maybe I should have asked this way earlier with this reaction that we're getting from the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament.
Certainly, we have been vindicated a lot of times. The first Deputy Speaker, Joseph Osowusu, I think some 2 years ago, also said that indeed, when they cross-checked the number of absentee MPs that we flagged, it was a true reflection of what has been going on in Parliament. We have no problem at all about the leadership position on what is happening in Parliament. Our challenge is taking action against these MPs.
But from the, from Dr. Rashid Rahman's analysis, do you have hope? Because I feel hopeless. I mean, he's a man who knows a lot about parliamentary work, and he says this is an action that's been taken a little too late. I'm not even sure what the significance of it is. Do you have hope that anything would change?
Well, I mean, if we
what have you been calling for, really, as Odikro?
We have been calling for a number of reforms. I will stick to three things. Dr. Rahman has already mentioned, alluded to the decoupling of MPs from being ministers of state. The second part of it is also improving the data capturing methods in Parliament. And then the third part is taking some actions against chronically absentee MPs. This is very important because, like Honorable Sam George said when he was making his remarks on the floor, he didn't know whether this has been the tradition, this has been the pattern in the past. Of course, this
because he's a first-time MP.
But this has been the case, actually, for a long time.
So how long have you been tracking?
We started from 2014.
Okay.
So the patterns, it has been like that since. So, I mean, if MPs are looking at this, MPs are very rational people, and they are looking at this and they are seeing their colleagues using public hours to transact private business. I mean, what is the motivation to stick to the rules?
Is it getting worse from 2014 to 2019?
It keeps getting worse.
It keeps getting worse. Okay, interesting. So you're asking for three things to happen. Because Dr. Rahman again referred to the elections that will come up in 2020. I mean, this is 2019. It starts from now. So this is probably going to get worse.
Yes, it will get worse. The parties will be having their primaries, so these MPs will have to be there to protect their seat. But Mamavi, you expect that all that they have to do is to request permission from the Speaker. It's a very simple process. I don't know the difficulties some of the MPs are having. Because this is also important. It also allows the Speaker to know that, okay, you were not present because of a number of reasons, so that if a member raises the issue of quorum in the House, the Speaker will be able to say that it's for this number of possible reasons. That's why we have to move forward the business of today. But in the absence of that, the Speaker is put in a very tight position. And so, I mean, sittings have to be suspended because Parliament doesn't have quorum. And in 2017 alone, absenteeism cost us 1.4 million Ghana cedis.
How?
Yes.
How is that?
How is it? Because if you subtract the man-hours that were lost as a result to the state, that's how much you get, 1.4 million.
I'm beginning to ask the question if some of our MPs understand why they are in Parliament. Sometimes it's not just the citizens who are perhaps confused, because sometimes we feel that they are people who are supposed to bring infrastructure to the various constituencies. And we've tried to also let people know that, no, they are there as MPs representing them in Parliament to make laws. But it's beginning to, to come out clearly that sometimes maybe some MPs actually don't even understand why they are in Parliament. Can we check out specifically Mr. Joe Osei-Owusu's response on myjoyonline.com as captured? We'll come back and then, wrap it up. But here we go with what's exactly how he put it. So first Deputy Speaker of Parliament made the revelation about the 15 MPs who've been found to repeatedly abandon parliamentary duties after coming to check their names on the attendance lists. He's raised, this was initially raised by MP for Ningo Pram Samuel Nate George. The MP made the complaints after MPs were directed to sign a register. He said, Mr. Speaker, this is an honorable house. Can we all be truthful to ourselves and to God that if we take today's votes and procedures, the names marked present were really present in this chamber? He said the practice is pervasive even at committee sittings, even State of the Nation address, they don't even attend. And then if you go down to the story, I want to go to, let's further go down. So the first Deputy Speaker said this behavior raises questions over the integrity of MPs, but he would not mention names. He said he would, however, strike out the names of such MPs from the attendance list whenever this attitude is observed. So scenes from Parliament routinely show a depleted chamber despite a heavy workload. The Speaker of Parliament on March 3 watched aghast as only 15 in the 275-seater chamber showed up for work at the time of commencement. MP absenteeism is a frequent theme on his opening addresses when Parliament reconvenes. Okay, so Odiko is featured here again. They've been doing this tracking and Ernest Amma here says they've been tracking since 2014 and the situation looks like it's getting worse. They've actually outlined 3 things that could be done. But again, I have to come back and say, are you hopeful? At least the very last thing that you said in terms of punishing them. I'm not sure striking out their names each time will do the trick.
Right. You know, Immanuel Kant once said that out of the crooked timber of humanity, nothing was ever straight. So the thing is, human beings as we have faults, we have weaknesses. So unless we have checks and balances in place, we won't move forward. Yes.
Okay.
So we need checks.
I'm tempted to ask, how can the executive or how can the people check MPs?
Well, the executive, first of all, we are seeing what we are seeing in Parliament because the executive is doing business in Parliament. It should not be the case. There should be a clear separation of powers. What we have, as Dr. Dramani said, is fusion of powers, and that is what is creating this kind of problems. We need to separate them, and then we need to allow the Speaker of Parliament to do his work as the leader of the House. Yes.
Do we expect any firm actions? This is First Deputy Speaker sitting as Speaker. We know that there's the original Speaker of Parliament, and I don't know if from your tracking you've had Professor Michael Quay also make comments specifically on this absenteeism issue.
Actually, Professor Michael Quay said that a lawmaker should not be a lawbreaker.
Okay.
He said that in his opening address to this Parliament. And well, I don't think most of the MPs listen to him because clearly they are doing contrary to what he said.
Yeah.
So I think what needs to be done right now, if Parliament is not keen on taking action against these MPs, you can understand why, because the leadership has to navigate between enforcing discipline and showing mercy. But then we as citizens will start to put pressure. We'll have to start putting pressure on our MPs and demand more of them.
Has Odiko engaged the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, who himself is in the leadership position in Parliament?
Yes,
okay, what's been the response from there?
Well, it was a private meeting, so I couldn't share.
Oh, you can. Okay, the fact that you can share publicly means that it wasn't really positive. And I'm not pushing you. I'm just trying to understand from that reaction.
I don't want to create trouble.
Yeah, but I figure that. So do you name names?
Yes,
do you bring
yes,
names?
We
Okay.
Do
you find people in leadership also doing this?
Yes. It will shock you to know that some members of the Privileges Committee of Parliament are part of the absentee MPs.
That is a hopeless situation now. Because privileges is where you're dragged to.
Yes.
If you did something contrary to what what is prescribed as member of Parliament. And so if you have people within the Privileges Committee who are also doing this, then where do you drag them to?
Yes.
Interesting. How do we pick this up as a people? Dr. Draman was making reference to Hong Kong. That's not related to absenteeism. That's an extradition to mainland China. But we've had people come out in their numbers, judiciary, ordinary members, citizens, lawyers, people come out to demonstrate. Even when it was announced that that particular bill for which they were demonstrating had been suspended. Now they want to scrap totally. Do our people understand what this means? MPs representing us, yet not showing up in Parliament, not even asking for permission. Do we, as ordinary citizens, understand what this means?
I think we started from a place where people have very high regard for the MPs. In some places, the MPs are seen as demigods. People are scared about them, and so it's very difficult for people to confront them. But we've made some good progress. We've been able to get some people to write, to petition Parliament, specifically the Privileges Committee, to take action against these MPs. But going forward, we need to do more. If we can get a lot more people that can write to Parliament and say that, look, we have been paying these people. We are the employers of these people. And so if they are in the House, they're supposed to transact state business on our behalf, not to use the the hours and the privileges and the benefits to transact their private business. If we start getting that groundswell of public anger against what is going on in Parliament, we'll make some progress. But if we leave it to the leadership of Parliament to decide alone, like I said, it will be very difficult because the Speaker will have to choose between enforcing discipline, and when he does that, it will set a precedent. And it stands to be affected most because most of the corporates will be in his party.
Interesting. You know? and to think that we spent a lot of money trying to finish Job 600 so MPs can have offices and not, you know, make up excuses and say, well, I don't have anywhere to be apart from the main chamber, and still we record this. What does it mean, the fact that we put up Job 600, for instance? That's a beautiful edifice right there, very comfortable, you know. And, I don't see why MPs can't be in Parliament.
The question that I would like all of us to reflect on before we end this discussion is, what are we getting as citizens from the social contract?
Brilliant question there, because we give them so much privilege as MPs. We know their lives totally change when they step into Parliament, and the least we expect is for them to do their job, at least their bit of the bargain. I'd like to say thank you to you. We will be, you're still tracking, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
Okay. How often do you come out with your
Usually,
with your research?
we were doing the sessional report, but right now we are targeting 2020. So maybe the first quarter of 2020 you hear from us.
Oh my God. And when you say that we should petition Privileges Committee, I was tempted to say, you know what? Address that to the Speaker, because I'm not sure.
We've written the Speaker, we've written all of them. Yeah. Yeah.
So where do we go again if they don't react to all the petitions?
Well, we are fine-tuning our strategy. We've learned a lot of what happened in the past. You know, what we do is, before we publish our report, we engage the leadership of Parliament. We engage the individual MPs.
Even though they're usually not happy with you?
Of course, yes, we do. But sometimes when everything pans out in the public domain, they make it look like there was no consultation, stuff like that. But we do
in fact, this is the first time I'm actually hearing that there's consultation.
Yes, we validate our data before we make them public.
Interesting.
Yes.
That's Enesama, his Director of Research, Odikro, helping us appreciate this whole issue of MP absenteeism. Well, the MPs, members of Parliament, they represent us. They're in your constituencies each time. Please ask them why they don't stay in Parliament when they should really be. Because, you know, one of the things that they usually say, the reason they are also not on the ground in the constituencies, they say they are in Parliament. So if they're not in Parliament, then we've got to ask, where are they? Stay with us. You're watching the AM show.